I would like to welcome everyone today to our webinar. Mason County Sheriff's Office shares its success in certification and training management. My name is Terry Thiele, and I'm a customer advocate with Paladin Data Systems. Now, we're very pleased to have with us Lieutenant Travis Adams, who for the last year has been a power user of ASMi, Paladin's decision support system for workforce readiness. Lieutenant Travis Adams, welcome, and thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Terry. Happy to be here.
Great. Hey, well, Travis, would you please just begin by providing us all and the audience with a bit about your background and your department?
Sure. I work for the Mason County Sheriff's Office here in Washington State. If you don't know where that's at, it's on the Olympic Peninsula. I've been with the department for about 20 years now. Our department has both patrol and corrections personnel. We have about 54 sworn. We have the corrections facility and then all our support staff as well. So we're a department of about 110 plus individuals.
Okay, that's great. Well, you've been with the agency for a number of years. Travis, how did your role change over time where you've now become your department's training guru?
So I started in patrol and was very interested in defensive tactics, became a master instructor through the state, and then I've been involved with just about every special unit in our department. So I've been involved with everything from the Marine unit to field training to SWAT and defensive tactics. And so I just have a extensive background in the training realm. In the last 4 years, as I've moved into more of an admin role, my responsibilities here have been to, one, maintain the accreditation process for our department, and two, I've worked extensively on integration of technology into the department that would help facilitate the organization and getting things done, making sure that we're keeping up with industry best standards.
That's great, Travis. Thanks. So, as a way to perhaps have you set the table for our listeners, will you please describe kind of the background and environment that led to Mason County to look for a tool like ASMi?
Our department over the years has had really great instructors, and we've had really great training. Unfortunately, our training has been very siloed. They did their own type of training. They documented it in their own way. They kept the training documentation in their own locations, and the documentation was very fragmented. We recognized that as we moved into the new era of computers and the way things are running nowadays, that the way we were doing business was not working. All we used to have to worry about were lawsuits, and we would have plenty of time if there was a lawsuit to go dig up all the training paperwork. But now, in the days of public disclosure and other things, we recognize that we needed to be much more on top of our training and having that all in one centralized location. So it really kind of required us to refocus on what our training needs were, how we were documenting with their firearms, who hadn't, who needed to qualify with their taser, making sure we were meeting all those accreditation standards and the other things that are we all have to keep track of nowadays as cops.
Great, Travis, thank you. Well, for our audience, ASMi is a very powerful tool which can be used in many different ways. So for the sake of our webinar today, we're going to attempt to focus our time today around 4 general ideas or areas. Our first area of discussion has to do with the concept of training data silos versus team collaboration. And so Travis, I know you mentioned it a little bit, but again, what do those concepts mean to you?
Yeah, so I touched on the issue of the training silos, where we had great instructors and we had great training going on, but everybody was documenting training in their own way. They were housing the training documentation in different locations. Everything was either on paper or on spreadsheets and spread throughout the department. And we recognize that in this day and age with public disclosure and needing to keep on top of certifications for accreditation and all of those things, that we really needed to pull all of that information together so that we had a much better handle on it. Our department's growing. We have more requirements that are dropped on us all the time as far as training concerns, and so we really needed to do that. We started our training committee, I think I mentioned, and we really had to conceptualize how we were going to document training, what was important to us, how we were going to have that training structured, what requirements we were going to have for instructors, and kind of make that a much more cohesive system across the entire organization. So that was kind of the genesis, kind of what moved us in that direction. So as we looked around, being involved in training as many years as I have, as many different programs, I've looked at all different types of software out there, and everything from tracking training on Access to using spreadsheets, and we came across ASMi, and we really felt that it was going to fit the bill for us. So in our training committee, we worked on determining how we wanted training to look in the future, how that documentation should look, and how we could maximize ASMi and the tools it has in order to get where we needed to go with our training program. One of the things that we knew that we needed to do is get a much better handle on assessments, qualifications, who was assigned to what units, and how that all worked together. And one of the things that ASMi has done really well for us is given us a snapshot at any point in time of where people are at with those certifications. Part of that is everybody in our department has a login and access to ASMi, where they have their own homepage, their own dashboard. And it's a little different depending on what your qualifications are, what your routing authorities are, and we'll talk more about that. So everybody in our department has a homepage, and up here at the top of the page, you'll see that my primary duty assignment is listed right up here at the top, and then all of our collateral duties are down below there. So if a deputy is an FTO and they're part of the SWAT team and they're a firearms instructor, those collateral duties would be listed down here. It's very nice for our command staff and other people who are running programs, because they can look up this information and know who belongs to what units, so that we know what our assets are at any time. Another thing that people have on their homepage are notifications, and we'll probably touch on that again a little bit later, but that tells people who have sign-off authorities that they have different things that they need to sign off, whether it's approving training when the training goes through routing, or whether it's approving a person being assigned to a detective unit or a special unit of some kind. In this block down here, this tells the user what their current certifications are, what for us assessments would be, firearms qualifications, and whether or not they're qualified at the time and when they need to redo their qualifications. If you have something that is lapsing or is going to come up on lapse time, it will be listed down here. Those are the primary things that most of the users in our department are looking at most of the time. If we have things in routing, it may not show up on this side, but it will let the user know that it's showing up awaiting a signature. And if they have certifications, they show up right up here. Another thing that we've done is we needed a location to put some of our department information. One of the things that we wanted to be able to house were annual evaluations, because it's a requirement for accreditation. So we have part of ASMi partitioned off so that we can put Their personnel evaluations in here. No one has access to them unless they get special permission to access those files. And that a file access request will show right down here. So if somebody needed to look at their file, that would show up in their dashboard. Another important part of the employee's dashboard is up here in the details section. Up here in the detail tab, this is where the officers will go to see their past training, if they have any tasks assigned to them, if they have any accreditations, what they are, their assessments for firearms or whatever you decide to set those assessments up as, and various other things are up here in the detail tab. So it's a good location for the personnel to go in and see what is going on, what's been documented, what hasn't, and keep up on all their qualifications.
Yeah, Travis, public records requests or public disclosure requests they're the ultimate challenge. You mentioned that earlier for any agency to kind of meet in any sort of timely fashion. Can we move into kind of the second area we were going to talk about? What did that mean for Mason County before using ASMi versus now that you have ASMi?
So I think most departments, I know especially in Washington State, are dealing with the public disclosure request issues. I don't know how it is around the country, but certainly here, lots of timelines that are requirements, information that they can request that we have to provide. With the training documentation that we had before, individual instructors, individual programs, different documentation, different formats, all kept in different locations, made it very, very difficult to view a comprehensive picture of someone's training plan or the training that they've had done or where the patrol unit was at as far as qualifications for firearms. Could we look and see if everybody was qualified in rifle and handgun and taser and the other issues that we had? In today's day and age with public records requests that we have to fulfill all the time, we really needed a way that we could get in there and get that information fast, have a picture of what the department was doing at the time, what the status of our training was, and to be able to do those things. So the issues around public disclosure really is another issue that drove us to look towards ASMi as a tool that we could use to get really quick snapshots of where individuals or the department as a whole were at so that we could provide that information to the public when requested. One of the other issues that we had was, and it's part of a growing organization, is when you have training and that training has to go through a certain route to determine who's to get that upper level review, is very often that paperwork would go from the trainer to the person who documents the training to the program manager to the chief, and you never knew what the status of that training was, where it was at in that process, and training files would end up missing. They would not be in the personnel files where they needed to be, and it just kind of gets to be a mess when the organization gets bigger and you're trying to go through that review process. One of the things that's been really nice with ASMi is being able to have that training go through routing right in the system. So once it's documented, it's in the system where we can see it, but it also goes through a routing process where we route that training from one person to another so that we can ensure that everybody sees that.
Yeah, so Lord forbid there was a public records request for you. How easy is it to show your history of training?
So very, very easy to show our history of training. We can look up individual training in the individuals. We can also use our reporting. It's important to know that the reporting is very robust. It pulls data from anywhere in the system that we need it to and puts it in basically any format that we want to have it in.
So I have libraries set up. I have my libraries with reports that I use quite frequently. I also have a shared library which we can all use that looks like has 21 reports in it right now. They're just all configured differently depending on what data that we really want at the time and how we would want to pull that data out of the system. So for folks in Washington State, you know that we have to report our training hours to CJTC each year, document that we'd had 24 hours of training for our personnel. So one of the reports that I had done up was a report that shows training for the organization. So it's as simple as deciding what part of the organization I want to know for patrol, selecting a beginning date. So I want to select all of 2015 because that's the year that I'm reporting for. And once I finish selecting those dates, that is pretty much all I have to do. The report that I needed is generated. So it generates a report that shows in alphabetical order all the folks in patrol and what their training hours were within the time frame that it was that we put in. 12 pages of records where I can go through and just review where each person is at, how much training they've had, and I can provide that for documentation for the Criminal Justice Training Commission if I need to do that at that time. So reporting is really pretty much that simple. I will say that the reports are very robust. What you can pull out of the system is pretty much anything that you put in there. However, setting up the reports is kind of a complicated process. The nice thing is Paladin has some of the greatest support folks up there. Anytime I have needed a report done, I've just one little section added or something new put in there, or I realized that I needed a report that did something and I don't have that in there. They've created those reports when I've needed them in no time at all and provided those to me. So it's been a great experience working with that. Another type of report you can run is a report that's actually generated in the system here. It doesn't kick out as a PDF. So we document training and put the training in with, we have notes sections in our training, so a lot of times I want to know what's in the notes, so I will run a report that's looking for specific information. So I can run this report as it is right now, and it goes through all of patrol, gives me the individuals, what type of training it was, and provides me the notes section over here so that I can see if that's the training I was looking for, if I was doing a specific search or something along those lines. It's probably a good time to segue into talking about the dashboard. You can set up a dashboard which will run reports that you use all the time so that you don't have to go in and look for them. Those reports just auto-generate whenever you open them up. So the information will be provided. So I have a couple reports in here that gives me everybody in the department. It's just a roster of everyone in the organization. I also have a report that runs for me that tells me where everybody's assigned, both their primary and their collateral duties, so I know who's assigned as an FTO or who's assigned to the SWAT team or who's assigned to the search and rescue unit, etc. It can also run reports that provide you information about training. So I have a report here that I ran that doesn't tell me who has done training, it actually tells me who hasn't done training. So for harassment training, every time I document that somebody has gone to harassment training, this report will have one less name on the list and will now tell me who still needs to have that training, and I can set that up however I need to. So the dashboard's a really valuable tool. You can add reports, take them away, you can resize them how you want to, and it works fantastic. If you don't want to log into ASMi, if you just want to have those reports sent to you, which I also do, you can schedule reports, and those reports will send you an email with an attachment with the report on the email attachment, and you can set that up however you want to. So you can see that I have two in here right now.
They're scheduled to send to me on Monday mornings at one at 6 o'clock and one at 7 o'clock, and they provide me information on a couple different pieces of training that I care about at that particular time. And you can set those up to email to whoever you want at whatever time you want them to with whatever information you want in the report. It makes it very, very easy to keep track. If you want to know who is going to expire on their certifications or their firearms training in the next 3 months so that you can set that training up, you can have that report sent to you quarterly so that you can set up that report each quarter. So very, very powerful tool, being able to use the reports and set those up however you want to through ASMi. This is probably a good segue to talk about documenting training. Documenting training in ASMi is exceptionally simple. Like Terry said, it's a very robust system. It has lots and lots of attributes and things that it can do, so it takes some time to visualize and conceptualize how you want to set the system up. But if you put that work in on the front end, what you get on the back end is a system that's super easy to use and super easy to document training. If you want to document training, I'm going to say that I want to document that all of our, let's say, patrol division went to some particular training. So I'm going to select the patrol division, and those are all the individuals that I care about at the time. I can simply select all of them. If they didn't all attend, I could unselect a couple of them that didn't make it if I wanted to. And so now you'll see all those people that I selected are listed up here. I just need to determine what the training was. So I'm going to say that they all went to harassment training, just as an example. I select harassment training, which is in our training list. Put in how many hours it was, and hit save. I've now documented that all of those people went to harassment training on the date that was selected. And pretty much that's it. Everybody that is on this list now has in their training record the fact that they did harassment training with the information that we put in there. Now, if I want, I can individually select attachments for individuals, or if we have a training curriculum that we wanted to put in there, a lesson plan and a documentation of training, for example, we can simply attach that to everybody. So we could pretend like this was harassment training documentation here, lesson plan and documentation of training, and I would attach that. And now they also have those attached to all of their training files and would be ready to go. Assessments are kind of a handy tool. Let me take a step back really quick, though, because I want to point out that one of the things that ASMi can do that we haven't done, but certainly if you don't want to attach lesson plans or things like that, you can set up your training so that you house all of your lesson plans. If you have standard training that you do every year, has harassment training and PREA training for those people who have jails, etc., you can house all of that training on your server somewhere and set your training documentation up so that it has a web address that goes right to that training. And then you don't even have to do the attachments. You can just, the URL is built right into your training, and it makes the documentation even that much faster. We haven't taken that step, but it's that's another option that you have if you're using ASMi. So back to the documentation of firearms training or assessments. One of the things that our instructors have come to very much love is the ability of ASMi to kick out training rosters and other things that are that they can use to ensure people are showing up and who's going to be there and who needs to be on the list. If you have a big department with a lot of people, you can't keep track of everybody, so you need to have those rosters. Instead of looking at schedules and writing them down or putting them in spreadsheets, ASMi will do all of that for you. So documenting firearms training or firearms qualifications is probably a good example of that. So if, for example, our firearms instructors are going to train everybody in the corrections facility on firearms training, I would select everybody who is going to go to that training, select an assessment, which I already have built into ASMi, and we're going to say that it's a rifle qualification. At this point, you can see down below that I have all of these boxes with people's names and pass, fail, hours of training, and a bunch of other blocks. This was all information that our firearms instructors gathered every year that they put on paper and they put into a file. We built it into ASMi under the assessments. These blocks are completely configurable by you. Whatever you want to put in there, you can. It's completely configurable by you, and you decide whether or not it's a required field or it's not a required field. But this is what our firearms instructor wanted to have. So once I select all of the folks that are going to go to training, I can export that training file into an Excel spreadsheet. And you'll see now that I have an Excel spreadsheet with all of the people that I had selected and all of the blocks that need to be filled out for the assessments. Once I provide this to the instructor, I can just email it to them. Out on the range, as they're going through their training, they take this information and they put it all into the spreadsheet, and they email me the spreadsheet back. We already have our firearms qualifications, standards, and lesson plans and everything already created, so the firearms instructors don't have to do that. They just simply provide me with this spreadsheet back. So when I go to provide, or when I go to document a training event, they send me the spreadsheet back. I go to the page that I need to document training here. I import a sheet, and not only will it bring in all of those people that they provided the documentation for, but it also has all the information that you want for your training records built in to that system. So I can look through the training and see that everything's filled out. There's one missing a serial number, so you can get that information and fill it in. And at that point, all you have to do is hit save, and now your training for firearms has been documented for everybody. We go a little bit farther. We like to add the actual rifle qual standards to that, and maybe a documentation of training. So I just go in and find our rifle qual standards and attach those rifle qual standards to everybody. So now you know everybody in the department who went to that training. So you'll remember earlier we talked about being able to see your training record and how fast it is in the system. So I should be able to go back to one of these individuals right now, and I'll select the first one on the list and go into their training record and look at their training events and, oh, I'm sorry, this was an assessment. Go into their assessments and see that it was documented. And there's the patrol rifle qualification performed and passed, and there's a couple other ones in there. So that's how we do it. And like I said, it's configurable for how you want to do the training and what information you want to have in there. It's just completely up to your department how you want to do it. That's how our department does it, but it's important to conceptualize at the beginning of the process how you want things to look so that you can kind of adapt your process to how ASMi works and fully maximize the tools in ASMi so that you can go through this process really quickly. Feel free to email me if you have any further questions. I'll give you a no BS answer. I'll give you a call and we'll talk about it. I would just reemphasize by saying this program, ASMi, has met our needs way more than I anticipated that it would, and I see us moving in lots of good directions with other things that we want to track and look at for the future. So if you're seeing things here that you think may meet your needs, but you're not 100% sure and you want to talk to somebody about how that may look, I'd be happy to talk to you because I've spent a ton of time with it. So be happy to do that for you.
Well, Travis, you certainly are a power user, if I must say so myself. But Travis, I want to thank you very much for your time today and for providing our audience kind of a look inside what you've built there at Mason County using the ASMi platform. I'd like to also extend my thanks to everybody out there who tuned in today. If you would like to learn how ASMi can help your agency save time and money, feel free to reach me. Our contact information's there. You can sign up for your own personalized demonstration via our website, or you can reach out to me. But other than that, I want to wish everybody a great day. And if you don't, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to give me a follow-up. So once again, Travis, thank you very much for your time today, and thanks to everyone.
Yep, no problem.